Welcome to the Health Headliner podcast by Tudu Digital. Our content is informational only and not medical advice. Please consult your provider. Now, let's dive into today's headlines.
Have you ever been there? Feeling overwhelmed, wishing there was just a faster way to feel a bit more self-kindness or just be truly present when life feels like, well, too much. Imagine if a small, almost unnoticeable nudge could actually boost your efforts to find that self-compassion and mindfulness. Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're digging into some fascinating new research exploring exactly that. We're looking at insights from a health news piece in Medical Express just out yesterday, August 4th, and it heavily draws on a really detailed scientific paper in psychological medicine. The paper itself is called Electroceutical Enhancement of Self-Compassion Training, using transcutaneous vagus nerve stimulation. Results from a pre-registered, fully factorial, randomized controlled trial. Quite a mouthful. Yeah, it is. But our mission for you today is simple: to understand the surprising link they found between stimulating a specific nerve and the benefits of meditation. What could it mean for us, for our mental landscape? And what big questions does it raise? So we're blending ancient practice with modern tech here, but maybe we should start with the basics. This vagus nerve. Lots of people have heard the term, but what is it exactly, and why is it so important for our well-being?
That's definitely the place to start. The vagus nerve is often called the wandering nerve. And for good reason, it's the longest cranial nerve we have. It essentially wanders from your brain down through your chest and abdomen, connecting to vital organs like your heart, your lungs, your gut.
Okay.
It's a huge part of your body's rest and digest system, the calm counterpart to the fight or flight stress response.
Right, the calming system.
Exactly. What's really key here, and maybe less well known, is that it's not just a one-way street down from the brain. It constantly sends signals from your body up to your brain. And these signals directly influence psychological stuff, emotional control, how we connect with others, how we handle stress. It's a major feedback loop.
Wow. Okay. So it's the central pathway influencing how we feel and react. It makes sense then that researchers, these ones at University College London, would want to see if they could, well, harness that. What was the specific aim of their study? How did they set it up?
Precisely. The core idea was to test whether they could use stimulation of this nerve to sort of augment or boost the effects of self-compassion meditation training. Could they make it work better or faster? And they used a really robust method to test this, a pre-registered, fully factorial, randomized controlled trial. They had 120 healthy participants.
That sounds quite rigorous, fully factorial. Can you maybe break down how the stimulation part actually worked and what the participants were doing day to day?
Sure. The stimulation itself is called transcutaneous vagus nerve stimulation. It sounds complex, but it's actually pretty straightforward in practice. They use a small device clipped onto the outer ear, specifically the tragus, that little flap of cartilage in front of your ear canal.
Oh, okay. So not invasive surgery or anything like that.
No, not at all. It just delivers a very mild, painless electrical pulse. The idea is to gently activate the vagus nerve fibers that are accessible near the skin surface there. Participants likely felt just a pingling, if anything. Then, the study design was clever. They split the 120 participants into 4 equal groups, and each group did something different over 8 daily sessions.
4 groups. Okay.
Right. Group 1 got the real vagus nerve stimulation and the self-compassion mental imagery training. This was their main focus group. Group 2 got the real stimulation, but paired it with a control mental imagery task. Something neutral, not focused on compassion. This helped isolate the effect of the meditation.
Makes sense?
Group 3 got placebo stimulation, so the device was on, but not actually delivering the nerve stimulation paired with the real self-compassion training. This controlled for the effect of the stimulation itself.
Got it. Controlling for the placebo effect of wearing the device.
Exactly. And Group 4 was the full control, placebo stimulation, and the control mental imagery task. Now, the self-compassion training involves specific guided exercises, imagining an ideally compassionate figure, cultivating feelings of warmth, safety, self-care. The control training was also mental imagery, but designed to be neutral, like imagine drawing a detailed picture of a face, focusing on the lines and shapes, not emotions.
Okay, so very different focuses for the imagery.
And they measured quite a few things. Self-reported self-compassion, naturally, but also self-criticism, state mindfulness like how present and aware they felt right then, heart rate variability, and even something called oculomotor attentional bias.
Oculomotor, how their eyes reacted.
Yeah, basically how long their eyes lingered on or how their pupils reacted to images of compassionate faces versus neutral faces, really looking for subtle shifts in attention and response.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting then. They've got this rigorous setup, multiple groups, detailed measurements. What were the key findings? Did the combination therapy actually work?
It really did, especially for that first group, the ones getting both the real vagus nerve stimulation and the self-compassion training. They showed a significantly larger increase in self-compassion compared to the other groups. And crucially, this boost was immediate. The paper described it as a very large effect size right from the very first session.
Wow, just one session. That's fast.
It is. Professor Sanjeev Kamboj, the lead author, specifically mentioned that this combination seems to amplify the benefits of the meditation technique. It gives it an initial kickstart.
Okay, so self-compassion got an immediate boost. What about mindfulness?
That was slightly different. While self-compassion jumped quickly, the improvements in mindfulness, that sense of present moment awareness, tended to build up more gradually across the multiple sessions for that same group.
Huh. So some effects are instant, others accumulate.
Seems that way. Another interesting point was self-criticism. They found that reductions in self-criticism were mainly linked to the self-compassion training itself, whether or not the vagus nerve stimulation was active.
So the meditation practice alone was powerful for reducing that inner critic.
Apparently so, which really highlights the value of the psychological technique on its own for certain outcomes. The stimulation seemed to add a specific boost, particularly to self-compassion's speed of onset.
Were there any, unexpected findings? Or things that didn't quite line up?
Well, yes, one quite interesting physiological finding, or lack thereof. You might expect, given we're stimulating the vagus nerve, to see a direct increase in heart rate variability, or HRV. That's often used as a marker of vagal tone.
Right, I've heard of HRV.
They did find that heart rate generally decreased with the self-compassion training, which fits with previous research about calming practices. But they didn't consistently find that the vagus nerve stimulation itself directly increased HRV in this study.
So the psychological effects were clear, but the expected physiological marker wasn't.
Exactly. It raises questions about how exactly the stimulation is working physiologically, or perhaps whether HRV is the right marker for this specific type of stimulation. It's something they noted needs more investigation.
And what about the eye tracking stuff? The attentional bias?
Oh yeah, that was fascinating too. The self-compassion training led participants to gaze longer at faces showing compassion, and their pupils dilated more in response to those faces. It suggests the training actually changes how we implicitly process social cues related to kindness. And interestingly, the vagus nerve stimulation seemed to interact with this. It sort of moderated the link between the increase in trait self-compassion and the pupil response. So it hints at the nerve playing a role in these subtle attentional shifts too.
Okay, so putting all these pieces together, what does this mean for us practically? What are the bigger implications here for well-being, for how we might cultivate kindness?
I think the implications are potentially huge. This study offers a glimpse into a future where we might be able to influence self-regulation, things like self-compassion, mindfulness, not just through conscious effort over time, but also perhaps by gently stimulating peripheral nerves. Think about it. Meditation, while incredibly beneficial, can be difficult. Professor Kamboj even calls it hard work sometimes.
It definitely can be, especially starting out.
Right. So if this neurostimulation can genuinely boost and accelerate its impacts, as he suggests, it could make these powerful practices more accessible. Maybe it helps people who struggle to get started, or helps them feel the benefits sooner so they stick with it.
Like lowering the barrier to entry for meditation's benefits?
Potentially, yes. And beyond just making meditation easier, this points towards a broader idea, maybe even a bioelectronic route to compassion, as some researchers are starting to explore. It hints that interventions like this might eventually play a role in actively promoting pro-social qualities, maybe even things like generosity or fairness, though that's obviously further down the line and raises ethical questions too.
A bioelectronic route to virtue. That's a provocative thought.
It is, but fundamentally this study adds strong support to the idea of the compassionate vagus, that this nerve is really central to our capacity for kindness, empathy, and social connection.
This all sounds incredibly promising. But, with any new research, especially in areas like this, there are usually caveats or limitations. What did the researchers themselves point out?
Absolutely, and they were quite clear about the study's boundaries. A major one is that this was done with healthy participants.
Right, not people already diagnosed with anxiety or depression.
Exactly. So a crucial next step is to see if this approach actually helps people who are struggling with clinical conditions like anxiety, depression, PTSD, where boosting self-compassion could be really impactful therapeutically. We don't know that yet.
That makes sense. What else?
Well, as we touched on, that lack of a consistent HRV change after stimulation is a bit of a puzzle. They need to figure out the reliable physiological markers of this specific type of stimulation to better understand the mechanism.
So refining the how it works part.
hmm Also, the study looked at effects during and shortly after the 8 sessions, but we don't know how long these boosted effects might last once the intervention stops. Longevity is a key question.
Right, does it stick?
And they also noted that the self-compassion training used, while based on established principles, was a simplified version, not a full course of clinical therapy. So translating these findings directly into complex therapy settings needs care.
Okay.
And finally, because they looked at quite a few different outcomes, they consider these findings a really strong preliminary foundation, but one that needs more targeted confirmatory studies to build upon it solidly.
Understood. So promising groundwork, but more research needed, especially clinically.
Precisely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the big takeaway, the single most important thought you think our listeners should hold on to from this groundbreaking work?
I think the core message is about synergy. It suggests a future where technology and our own inner work, like meditation, aren't separate domains, but can potentially work together powerfully. It prompts us to think differently about how we might enhance our capacity for kindness towards ourselves, and maybe towards others too. It hints that cultivating these crucial aspects of well-being might not always have to be a slow uphill climb. There could be ways to, well, accelerate the process.
Which leads perfectly into a final question for you, our listener. Thinking about these possibilities, how might combined approaches like this technology and inner practice change how you think about pursuing your own well-being, or even how you view therapy? Could pairing tech with self-work become a more common, maybe even mainstream path towards fostering greater kindness and presence in our increasingly complex lives? Something to definitely ponder.
Thanks for tuning in to the Health Headliner podcast by Digital. Like and subscribe for more health news and breakthroughs. Stay healthy and informed. See you next time.